world is fast changing and news breaks at lightning speed. Let us guide you through events and stories about global narratives and developments in geopolitics, diplomacy, foreign affairs, and world economy. Get factual and multi-angle perspectives on stories around the globe. Global Television brings you diplomatic perspective every Monday and Friday with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Diplomatic Perspective, the world in front of you.
Hello and welcome everyone to another very wonderful edition of Diplomatic Perspective. This is the Democracy Day special edition of Diplomatic Perspective, and I'm happy and I'm excited that Nigerians are celebrating democracy today. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Have you thought about the evolution of Nigeria's foreign policy? How have we fared so far? Can we take us back a little bit to the military era before and after democracy? What were the policies? How have we fared? Where are we in Africa before we even get out of the shores of Africa? Joining me on the conversation today is a political scientist and also a lecturer of political science with Biz University, and I'm excited to have him join us on the conversation today in the person of Dr. Obinna Nweke. It's good to have you join us.
Good to have you.
Well, I should start by saying Happy Democracy Day.
Yes, to Nigeria.
To Nigerians.
Yes.
You know the Nigerians.
Yes, to us Nigerians.
To us Nigerians.
Yes.
You know, anytime a lot of people, like today, which is Democracy Day, a lot of people, if you tell them Happy Democracy Day, that's the way they look at you, you know. Probably because of the economic situation. Now let's get into the conversation right here. Where do we get started from? As a matter of fact, everyone, I think it's necessary for all of us to know, okay, now that Nigeria is marking Democracy Day, how has the country's foreign policy, especially, how has it evolved from independence in 1960 until this democratic era? You can remember where we were and where we are right now, even though some persons are thinking something. But I won't tell you what they are thinking now. Probably you won't tell us.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Just like a human being who starts off as a toddler and grows into an adult, countries also grow. It's just that in some cases, some countries, maybe some have older siblings who can hold their hands, and so they mature quickly. Nigeria, unfortunately, had to be that elder brother in Africa. And that is why from independence, we have made it known that our foreign policy is centered on Africa. So we were the elder brother to all other African nations. Even till now, we still are. But elder brothers also do fall into certain problems. They do face problems as they all grow up. They've never lived the life before. They are just living it. And that also affected our growth. I remember, you do remember with me that at independence, we were primed to be the shining star of Africa. And we were doing just fine until 6 years later, when there was a military incursion, there was a coup. In 6 months, there were 2 coups. This was a country that have experienced 2 elections and had even a constitutional drafting committee working to draft a new constitution. And all of a sudden, we had 2 coups. I mean, if we didn't agree in democracy, we also didn't agree in military. And those disagreements led us into civil war. We weren't fighting other people, we fought ourselves. And imagine what would have happened if the younger ones see the elder ones fighting themselves. So it didn't show good. But that is not to take away the fact, because when we emerged from the civil war, we came back and say, hey, we may have messed up, sort of, but we are back to ourselves. I mean, let us form ECOWAS. All right? Let us ensure that the dreams of Azikiwe, the dreams of Nkrumah didn't go to waste. Let us make this AU a thing. Let us form ECOWAS. And we started it off. And that's to show that we, whether be it in military or in democracy, we have been that leader. Our foreign policy has been centered on Africa. And sometimes some people may look at it like, wasn't that even what affected us? Mm-hmm. Because if you listen to the great Mandela, he once praised Nigeria for coming to the assistance of South Africans during the apartheid. But now what is happening? I mean, June 12th, we have 18 days as deadline from the local South Africans for every Nigerian to leave. So you see, some people are asking the question, wouldn't that have been what affected us? But we cannot stay, we cannot say that is it, we cannot stop. But just that now, things have become a little bit more complex. You know, it was easier to make decisions during the military. It was easier because there were a few people to make the decision. The question is, were those decisions a product, were they as quality as, do they have more quality than those made from democratic era? That is the big question. But whether or not we have grown, yes, we have grown. And foreign policies are not just things that you do and you expect it to be like that. The global arena is an anarchic arena. So you have to be a little bit more brutal and open to partnering with more other people so that you can get your intention known. Of course, foreign policy is more or less just an intention. Yes, we've grown a lot, but yet there are challenges, a lot of challenges. Yeah, a lot of challenges.
A lot of challenges. All right, a lot of challenges. I think I felt in my spirit that when you mentioned a lot of challenges, Nigerians at home will nod their head and say, yeah, he knows what he's saying. He knows what he's saying. He knows exactly what we're going through. All right, now we're talking about foreign policy. You just mentioned the issue of South Africans asking Nigerians and other African citizens to leave. About, I think yesterday, 258 Nigerians arrived Abuja from South Africa via Air Peace, and of course that is to tell you that that's the first batch.
Yes.
Many are still returning. So I don't know, the big brother is having her citizens driven out of a country, Nigeria, or in Africa. Now let's look at foreign policy. What role, has democracy played in shaping Nigerians' foreign policy objectives over the years?
Thank you very much. It's as good as foreign policy itself. All right, democracy gives opportunity for participation. All right, if you go through our bilateral agreements that we have, multilateral agreements, bilateral agreements over the years, you discover that so many of them we have no business going into. But we did it because the people in power, which during the military were quite a few, it was just within their whims. All right, they just decided and then we go into it. But democracy opens up dialogue. You've seen severally during this our enjoyed streak of democracy that the National Assembly has to oppose us going into several bilateral relations. They question the details of it. Now, that is at government level. And we talk about individual level. Now we have multimedia, we have social media spaces where people get information ahead of time and challenge those decisions and make protests, online protests if you like, and challenge them. So government will have to rescind their decision or maybe look at a way to check if this is worth entering into. We've had series of examples where Nigerians have influenced because they have the opportunity. These opportunities were lacking in the military. We've had time. It is you and I that we are in Nigeria. Maybe not you and I in person, but you and I, by our ancestors, we are in Nigeria. When Nigeria declared that it had a lot of money, it's looking for solution and how to spend it. And then we went out becoming not just Big Brother Africa, but not entirely big brother the world. What it showed us is that there were people who could make decisions, but those decisions, the foreign policy, were within the bounded rationality. But right now, we have democratized the thought process. We have people who are coming in with ideas on how we can better position ourselves within the Committee of Nations. And lest we forget, just quite not up to 10 years ago, we had a little bit of a squabble with South Africa. I just keep mentioning South Africa. We had a little bit of a diplomatic squabble with South Africa. Not just once. We had the arms squabble, we had the MTN squabble, we had so many squabbles with them. They were politically resolved. And that is because we are in a democracy. It opened up dialogues, and then we sent our diplomats, and they brought their diplomats. In fact, at one time, Jacob Zuma, when he was South African president, had to come to Nigeria. So for us to sort that out, during the military era, these things don't happen that way. It's usually ego first before conversation, before talks, and sometimes talks don't even appear. So democracy has made in a nutshell, has made our foreign policy to be based on dialogue, on reasons. It has put reason in advance before any action. Even when we find South African companies, we had to reach a political solution. But if it was military, it would have been different. Don't forget, they are our brothers, no matter what happens now. I mean, the fight should only be felt on the flesh. I'm quoting General Gowon here. Whatever happens, and this also happens with other members of Africa. Today, the strongest brother, the closest brother to Nigeria in African politics is Benin Republic. And what was that? Because we helped them to secure their spots in the AU. So it is still the same, but it's because we are having this democracy and we're having this democratic expression, democratic allowance. Look at what happened. ECOWAS now, some people say now it is ECOWAS because you had the ECOWAS now. It's no longer in existence. Because how do you say that you are having a banquet and then 3 of your brothers left and then go and form a little table and they are eating there and you still say you are? No, you were. So that's the point. And they left. One can say a lot of reasons why they left, but the fact that those 3 have no democracy in them says a lot. When they were democratic, they were a member of the union. But when they left, when they dropped the idea of democracy, Now, I am not saying that internally they have made the wrong decision or the right one. It is for them and their citizens to decide. But I'm just saying in the bigger picture, they are no longer with the union. And so in some literature, they say that ECOWAS.
All right. Well, we are getting to know this. All right. We are getting to know this. ECOWAS. That's the spelling. You know the spelling of ECOWAS. ECOWAS. So now it's ECO instead of WAS. It is now is WAS, according to some school of thought, some persons anyway. I'm just getting to know that from Dr. now. All right, Doc. Let's get to talk. You know, from the beginning, you recognize the fact that Nigeria is the big brother Africa, and that they still are. How has this leadership position influence our foreign policy in Africa? Because with all of these things that you're saying, I don't know, I don't want to place it anywhere right now. The exit of these 3 guys from ECOWAS, even while the leadership of ECOWAS, Nigerians were at the top, were heading it. Then with what is happening in South Africa right now, you know, how can you say, or how would you describe Nigeria's leadership position in Africa if it has actually influenced foreign policy at all?
Oh, thank you. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. Well, we have to look at it both ways. I've told you before that Nigeria's role in Africa has sometimes worked counterintuitively. And that's because we got so much carried away as Big Brother that we forgot sometimes what impact it has on us. Let me say, the global system as of today makes leadership, regional leadership, difficult. All right. We used to have a bipolar world, all right, where you have the West and you have the East Bloc. And some, especially members of the Global South, came together to say we are not aligned so that we can survive. We're not part of it, so we can survive. And then at one time, we arrived, they demolished the wall, and then we have a unipolar world, capitalism world, led by the US. But which world order are we in now? It is no longer unipolar. In fact, it is a multipolar world. Everyone is the leader. US is leading, China is leading, Russia is leading, India is leading. Don't forget that we and Indians were almost mates when we were growing up. Now, they are leading, and they stand by that. So everyone stands up, and by the whole things that happened with Iran and USA, Iran has emerged as a leader too. Because he calls the shots now, and so it's a multipolar world. Everybody has realized that they are leaders as well. So for you now to come and tell us that you are a Big Brother Africa creates the question, so who is the younger one? So everyone in Africa, you have Egypt, you have Algeria, you have Morocco. Posing say that they have even better, stronger economy than us. Meanwhile,
which is not far from
which is not far from the truth. South Africa are saying that they have better economy than us. So everyone is challenging the leadership of Nigeria, and that's not far to find. It's not difficult to find why I say the world system now promotes multipolar system. Everyone is a leader, but there are things we cannot take for granted. All right. I wish we saw this coming. We would have prioritized Nigeria, even in our foreign policies. All right, we would have put in clauses that will make them still come to us. Nigeria cannot easily be pushed aside. That is one. That is assumed as given. Nigeria cannot be pushed aside in Africa, because how do you tell a country with 240 million, 1 in every 7 now, 1 in every 7 black person you see is a Nigerian? How do you tell the person to go outside? I mean, you don't have anything you produce if your product hasn't been sold in Nigeria. And then Nigeria still say, look, we open up to you, ECOWAS, our brothers, come in, do your trade and go. You have nothing. We are all one economic community. We are one market. This is what England tested and be like, no, we're not doing that again. Then they Brexited, all right? But we will say no. In as much as you are being rebellious as our younger ones, we still acknowledge that. But we didn't factor in some of the things we should have factored in. All right? Colonial nations factored in those things. And if you see the result of it, we still have what we call Commonwealth today. Commonwealth is just another name for former colonies. All right? They factored this in. So if we had factored it in, it would have been the center of the entire Africa, but we didn't factor it, and some of the internal crises also didn't do well in our progress. And these are the challenges that I have mentioned. Some of our internal internal challenges didn't help our progress, because how do we give example? How do we show the younger ones this is the way to go if we don't lead by example? I am not saying that we are all entirely bad. We have very good ways that we have led Africa, even in the ways we didn't even think. For instance, you are aware that Namibia sometimes 2 years ago came to Nigeria to learn about how we are able to tackle corruption. They sent delegates to come and learn how we are tackling corruption. And before it creates fun, it's funny. Because the way the media showed it, the two people who shook hands were laughing. So the question was, why are they laughing? I mean, you look for everywhere you want to learn about how to tackle corruption is Nigeria. But we are winning it. And I'll tell you, if you think we are not, if the efforts we have put in were not there, it would have been worse. Another example is how we are able to manage our diversity. All right? Congo is a diverse nation, but they cannot manage their diversity. And that is why the most phenomenally blessed country on earth, or let me say on Africa, is in crisis. They emerge from crisis to go into another crisis. You cannot just resolve it just like that. It's because they have the cultural differences. They are heterogeneous people who haven't yet come together to, just like us. We are passing through that. We haven't yet come together to say that we are Nigerians before we are different tribe. But we have been able to manage ours to a very appreciable extent. We may mock our application of federal character, but it's still working. We may mock several things we have done to promote that unity, even though we are diverse. It is still working. This is leadership. This is leadership. How are we able to manage federalism that it has not collapsed? Because it is difficult in Africa to have a federal system and let it run smoothly. Quite very difficult. If you ask other countries, in fact, other nations prefer to run with the parliamentary system because it's easier. It's quite easier to run that system. But we have 36 governors. I mean, we have multiple governments in one entity and it's still running. So these are leadership that we are providing. I can tell you, without these examples, Africa will not have been what it is today. And that's because we co-learn from ourselves, and Nigeria leading that. Whether be it the people we send out knowingly or unknowingly, we teach other people how to live. So politically, this is where we have played that role. And don't forget that, like a recap, it hasn't been the best. We haven't put ourselves forward in that. So the results we are seeing now are as a result of children who forgot what their parents did for them. I'm talking about South Africa. It is only South African. I haven't heard other countries saying that we should leave. Even Ghana, that it was in the 80s, we had a very popular campaign that Ghana should go. Ghana still has our people, and they don't want us to go. It is because of the leadership that we talk about electricity. There are so many ways that we have provided this, that our position in Africa creates that help. Creates that sense of leadership. We may not see it in the way our sense of leadership we haven't captured it in the term it should be captured. Leadership is entirely about influence. What influence you have on someone, what influence, what your living, your being, influence them to do. And that's how we look at leadership. It doesn't mean that you are the boss and then people will bow to you. Yeah, we haven't looked at it, but if we look at it in that sense, we discover that Nigeria has been a shining example. Like I said, there is room for improvement. Okay. And then we can start that from ourselves. We can start looking at solving our problem from dealing with internal democratic issues before we can extrapolate it. Okay. But we have been doing some things inadvertently, and whether we knew it or not.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think this is interesting. It's getting more interesting now. We're celebrating Democracy Day.
Yes.
That's why we are here. This is Democracy Day special, diplomatic perspective. All right. Now, what do you think of Nigeria's democracy? How does the world, outside Africa, now including Africa and other parts of the world, how do they view Nigeria's democracy? There is no election that we have that there are no foreign observers, and they have come with their reports, their observations after every election. And you know how these affect international relations?
Yes.
Whether positive or negatively. So what's your assessment of our democracy, how it's been viewed globally, all right, taking into cognizance possibilities of relationships that we may have with the global community?
Well, I think it's about who is doing the assessment. Okay? So many countries want economic relationship with you, whether you're democratic or not.
Okay.
Some other countries, because of the Committee of Other Nations, want a relationship with you based on the principles of your democracy. But come to think of it, democracy, have we agreed on what democracy is?
Okay.
Because there is a temptation to reduce democracy to periodic election or the outcome of election or the processes of election, which is a dangerous assumption. Democracy is far more than that. Democracy in a nutshell is a system that gives the people opportunity to participate in the process of governance. Okay, and that's why it is not the same thing. Election is just an aspect, an attribute of democracy. Freedom of speech is an attribute. Popular participation through petition, through protests, these are democratic attributes that are even calculated even more to rank higher than periodic election. But let us take election for a while. I mean, if we are making a whole analysis of the health of Nigeria's democracy, we're assessing how it has been over the years. Let's take them one at each. I mean, Nigeria today, somebody can get up and say the president is mad and still goes back to his home and sleep. This never happened even as recently as 2000. You will be found. Even if not punished, you will be found and cautioned. Okay. But let's take election, for instance. There is an aspect of our election that we gloss over, and it's quite dangerous. You take, for instance, in 1993, the June 12 election, the SDP won that election allegedly because the official results never came out. Okay. The figure that we saw was 8.3 million people, right? Then, 30 years later, in 2023, the winner of election, the APC, won with 8.1 million. So, you're telling me that 30 years ajar and election is being a winner of a nation is still being decided by 8 million voters. That means we didn't grow. All right, we didn't grow in that aspect. Forget about the whether we have it periodically. What are the things that come with them? You shouldn't forget that when President Buhari left the ballot, about 6 million votes left with him. We should be looking at that as democratic recession. If it takes a person to bring voters to the polling booth, democracy should be an encouragement. It should be a system that people patronize. It invites people to come. So not one person invites. If one person invites, then the person gets the vote. So this should be our concern of the democracy that we are looking at. Does it give a person who has idea of how a nation should progress an opportunity if the person is not previously popular? Does it create a system where people who are already in the room assess the options and make decisions? Or it is a system where someone brings people into the room for his own sake?
All right. I wish we could continue. I'm thinking we could have a repeat of this conversation because so many questions in my mind, in my heart, I would have loved to ask, but time is not on our side. A very big thank you for being part of this Democracy Day Diplomatic Perspective. In fact, it's a special edition
Yes.
of Diplomatic Perspective, and I'm excited that you were able to do justice to the conversation today, Doc. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I believe there are a lot of take-homes from this discussion so far. I have a wonderful Democracy Day celebration ahead of you. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye for now.